Morgan, can you turn off those lights? Well, it's 5 o'clock, so I will call to order the meeting of the Saugeen Shores Committee of Adjustment. The date is June the 19th, 2023, and members are in attendance. I would like to just let on that there's new technology in the council chambers, so we're figuring out how some things work and how sound moves around. So for Richard, Michael, and Chad, I don't see you right in front of me anymore. I have to look this way or look down there. So if by chance I miss your hand going up, say something. And I think, Morgan, do they have to turn on their microphones to speak, or is it automatic? Okay, your microphone should come on. So I think we've tested all of you. So there's my little disclaimer that we're working out some kinks here in the council chamber on the new system. The meeting's been called to order. I'll ask the Vice Deputy Mayor to read the land acknowledgement for today.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash unceded First Nation. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for the contributions they have made in both caring for the land and shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation, which begins with each and every one of us. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning and about Indigenous culture, to fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people. And we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing along with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Thank you. Next is an acknowledgement of any pecuniary interest you can declare now or at any time during the meeting. Seeing none, item 4 on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes from the May the 15th, 2023 meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by the Vice Deputy Mayor, seconded by Michael Martin. Is there any discussion about the minutes?
Sorry, it's just Councillor Shack. I just wanted to make sure it's clear I'm on the call as well. I didn't hear my name acknowledged earlier.
Okay, I can't see you. Is your camera turned on?
It's not. I just got in, but I've been on the call the whole time. I just wanted to make it known. Thanks.
So you're attending without your camera on?
Yeah, I just got in the door, so I've been on the call. I'm just signing in, and then I'll be
Okay, well, again, just make sure you say something. If I don't tend to acknowledge you, if you're trying to get my attention, okay? So is there any comments or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Councillor Stack?
in favor.
Thank you. The motion is passed. We have additional business, which is a carryover from the last meeting. It was about some training related to the sign bylaw. So the additional business is that there's a recommendation before us that a special committee of adjustment meeting be held virtually on June the 26th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Does anyone have an issue with attending a virtual meeting on that day at that time? Well, seeing none, I will count on an agenda and any supporting materials to be sent out in advance of the meeting. We have 3 public hearings on the agenda tonight. Next up is one for file number minor variance application A-2023-009. The address on the file is 338 Blanchfield Road in the former town of Southampton. And the purpose of the hearing is to hear any comments or suggestions, hear the planner's report, and then have the committee discuss and make a decision. So I will ask for the planner to make her report. I believe Jillian.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, good evening. So the first application I'm presenting tonight is for the property located at 338 Blanchfield Road. The owner is seeking relief from the front yard setback and interior side yard setback regulations. They would like a front yard setback of 3 meters instead of the 6 meter requirement. And they would like a 0.28 meter interior side yard setback instead of the 1 meter requirement. So the front yard setback reduction is caused by the reorientation of the front driveway. Currently, to park their car in the garage, there's a bit of an angled turn, which is difficult to maneuver. So the owner is proposing to reorient the garage and extend it slightly so that they can enter it straight on rather than having to turn. And this will result in a reduced front yard setback of 3 meters. And then the reduction to the interior side yard setback is to recognize an existing deficiency for a small deck at the side of the house. So the application was circulated for comments and no comments or objections have been received. And staff are recommending approval of the 2 minor variances. It's a quick summary and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jillian. I just want to check and make sure all of you that are zoomed in, were you able to hear that clearly? Thank you. So we have no members of the public or the applicant wishing to speak. Is there any discussion from the committee? Well, seeing no hands up, my only comment or question to the planner is, do you have a sense that there'll be a new double width driveway coming in off Blanchfield to the new relocated garage? Is the intention to remove the old driveway and re-landscape that to fit in a little bit more with the neighborhood, or will driveway stay pretty much all the way across the front of the property? Jillian, do you know if that's
So I don't know. I think that would be a question for the applicant. I do know that there is a hydro pole that's sort of oriented where the existing driveway is. So I'm not sure if they would want to sort of interfere with that at all by removing the existing driveway. But again, that's something they can answer.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. There's a what in the existing driveway?
So there's a hydro pole that
hydro
is
pole.
adjacent to the driveway. So I'm not sure how that would impact any removal of the driveway.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have a recommendation from the planner that we approve minor variance as attached and subject to the conditions on the decision sheet. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Chad, seconded by Richard. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so that is carried along with the conditions that are any future development on the property conforms to the provisions of the zoning bylaw, that the minimum front yard setback is 3.3 meters, that the minimum interior side yard setback is 0.28 meters, and that the decision applies only to the proposed development as indicated on Schedule A attached to and forming part of this decision. The second application is minor variance application A-2023-010 from Grey Bruce Property Rentals. The property address is 583 Catherine Street. And again, I'll ask the planner to make her report.
Thank you. So this minor variance is related to the addition of a residential use. The owner is proposing to construct an addition to an existing commercial building and use that addition as a dwelling unit. So the property is located in the core commercial zone, which does permit residential uses. However, those residential uses are required to be either above or behind the commercial use. So for this application, the applicant is seeking to have a residential use beside a commercial use rather than it being above or behind. So the application was circulated for comments. No comments or objections were received. And staff are recommending approval for this minor variance. Again, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I believe a representative of the applicant is on the Zoom. Would Mr. Doyle like to speak?
Good afternoon. Thank you. I think Jillian explained it well, so if there's any questions, I'm certainly here to offer any information I can. Thanks.
Thank you. Any comments or questions, concerns from members of the committee? Vice Deputy Mayor.
Just really a comment. Well, I guess a question too, to the developers too. I think this is, I'll be supporting this. I think it's good use of that property. And just a question I have is the unit that you're putting in. Is that going to be a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom? What's the square footage of that unit you're adding, renovating, Stu?
Sorry, I've been having trouble with my video thing all day today. I think it's a 1-bedroom, and if I recall, it's about 950 square feet total, probably a little less just with the stairs coming out of it, so about 900 square feet.
That's a good size 1-bedroom. It's nice walkability to the downtown. I think adding another unit in that area is a good thing. So I'll be certainly supporting this application.
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Richard?
So this is, it's not, so there's going to be an apartment and then next to it are going to be all the stores, all the shops that are currently there, right? Like if we approve, I guess my concern is if we approve this and say, yes, that can be a residential one, what's to stop the owner then kicking all the businesses out and making the whole building an apartment? Or would they have to have each one approved to do that?
It is just specific to the addition. I believe
Right.
if they wanted to make a change of use on the rest of the building, they'd have to be back
Yeah.
with another application.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Michael, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. To the developer through you, Madam Chair. For as far as parking is concerned, and as far as there will be designated parking within the existing parking lot of that plaza for this unit?
Correct. We feel there's sufficient there, but we will be marking them. Yes.
Yeah, so that'll be those parking spaces will go with whoever is owning that particular apartment.
Correct. Whoever's renting that property. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
I think you need to unmute yourself. Councillor Stack?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see the video for a second. I just had a question. It's probably just my ignorance. When I look at should this approval have not, should this minor variance not have been requested before the addition began? Or I thought this may have been I was looking at the old pictures. I thought this may have been the H&R block, so it was a bit confusing to me. But in any event, should this not have been submitted before the construction looks like close to complete?
Would you like me to address that?
Sure, go ahead.
Through the chair. So generally that's how we try to do things. In this particular instance, we were going to do a large improvement to the building as it needed it from over the years. So when we got into it, we decided to do this. We looked at a commercial on the main floor was our original intent.
Yeah.
And there was so much discussion around housing. We kind of brought it up, hey, maybe a main floor apartment would be better here for this use. So we kind of put the brakes on. I mean, we could have had this building done probably 2 or 3 months ago. We kind of hit hold on this, waited for this meeting to make sure we were good to go. Then we'll carry on and finish it up.
Okay. And then I just had one more question. It's difficult to see, is there, and this is more just a sort of livability perspective, is there a window or are there windows or anything on the side? To be honest, I'm just concerned about the lighting of this particular unit.
Through the chair again, yes, there's windows down the side.
Thanks.
Anyone else? I had questions myself, and in fact, the addition is 2 apartments. There's an apartment above and then the one on the ground level. Our zoning bylaw would enable an apartment on a 2nd floor above commercial activity. The application is to enable the apartment at the ground floor because our zoning bylaw does not allow that. It can be above a commercial unit, but not below it. So there's actually 2 apartments being created here. And in a commercial core zone, I know you've all took a look at the zoning bylaw. You can build right out to the property line, so it can extend very close to the edge of this property. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, the planner has recommended approval of this minor variance. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Michael Martin, seconded by Councillor Stack. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? The approval is granted subject to the following conditions: that any future development on the property conforms to the provisions of the zoning bylaw, that an accessory unit be located dwelling unit be located beside the existing commercial use in accordance with the site plan submitted, and that the decision applies only to the proposed development as indicated on Schedule A attached to informing part of this decision. I'll blame that on a technical thing, but that was me stopping. We have a 3rd minor variance application. It's minor variance application A-2023-014. The address on this file is 122 Miramichi Bay Road in the former township, Saugeen Township. And I'll ask the planner to make her report.
Thank you. So the applicant is proposing to construct an accessory structure. And my understanding is that the accessory structure is proposed to be a rock climbing gym for his children. And so the applicant is proposing a maximum height of 6.7 meters instead of the 5-meter requirement. And that's related to the building height. It's my understanding that the structure was originally intended to meet the 5-meter height requirement. However, when the foundation was poured, it impacted the height, and so he's pursuing a minor variance. So this application, it has been circulated for comments. Saugeen had originally indicated that there may be archaeology potential on the property, and so the applicant has reached out to Saugeen on several occasions to discuss those concerns and has not heard back. And no other agency comments were received. There was one public comment that was received this morning, and that comment has concern with the proposal related to the height. Their comments include that the building is somewhat of an eyesore. It will decrease their property value, and that the zoning bylaw regulation of 5-meter height requirement is sufficient and should not be deviated from, as well as concern with the conversion of the accessory structure into a dwelling unit down the road. And that was the only other comment that was received. So in reviewing this application, town staff are recommending approval of the minor variance application. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Thank you. Just for clarification, the recommendation to approve is coming from Bruce County Planning, not from Town of Saugeen Shore staff. Would that be correct?
Correct, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll open it. I don't believe anybody's on the Zoom meeting who wishes to speak to the application. Okay. I'll open it up then to the committee to have discussion on this application. Oh, Chad, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I wonder if I could gain an understanding of what the regular reach out to the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation means. Is that written? Is it in phone? Is there a validation process to that? I just don't recall the others saying that, although maybe it has, and my memory is a little bit old. So could you further explain that, Ms. Smith?
Yeah, so typically when we circulate the application for comments, and Son always responds, and they often will respond with an email saying, can you have the applicant reach out to me to discuss the archaeology potential, at which point I will get in contact with the applicant and pass on those comments as well as the contact information, and I'll usually do that via email and CC Son, as well as provide the phone number. And so in this case, the applicant had reached out via email and phone, and had not heard back.
And a follow up through the chair, is this common that we wouldn't hear back, or more of an exception?
I would say in 90% of cases, we do hear back. I think that the applicant followed up with photos of the site and trying to explain what was happening and how there might not necessarily be a need to pursue archaeology potential, and maybe that was the end of it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Just as a follow-up to that before you, Michael, Jillian, do you have can you give us a sense of the timing? Like when would the original request have gone to Son and that information be conveyed to the applicant? And are you aware of how the applicant then followed through with contact? Do you have a timeline there? Are we talking months, weeks?
Yep. So the original notice, I believe it went out May 23rd. So about a month would be the time frame.
So the original notice to Son was about a month ago?
Yeah.
And then you received a reply back fairly quickly?
Yeah.
And okay, and do you know when the applicant reached out to Son? Was it 2 weeks ago? Last week?
It would have been, I don't know off the top of my head. Usually these things are very quick, so someone responds back to the notice, then I get CC'd on that email, and then as soon as I get that email, I pass it on to the applicant. And then a few days later, the applicant had called me saying that they have contacted Son and they're waiting for confirmation from them. And they CC'd me on an email as well, which was, the next day after I had sent them the email from Son. So it was a very quick period of time. It wasn't, the applicant wasn't waiting weeks to reach out.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is a question for Ms. Smith through you. Ms. Smith, I was wondering if you could give me a hand a little bit with the rationale and the cause of them having to go what originally I think was 1.7 meters, because the bylaw just got changed about 6 weeks ago. What type of engineering and construction issue they had to all of a sudden cause such a change? Because when I first read this, I was just really concerned about the fact that this building is constructed pretty well, and now they're asking for the variance. Could you just go over what you know? I mean, maybe that's not information you have.
I don't have the full picture. All I know is what the applicant told me a while ago over the phone, which was that it was his intention to comply with the zoning bylaw, And when the foundation was poured for the building, I guess it was poured too high. And he didn't realize that he needed a variance until after. And that, so he was pursuing one now. But I mean, if the applicant is on the call, he might be able to provide more clarity on that.
But he wouldn't have a building permit. And all
I don't
these-
believe, I don't believe the applicant is on the call, but I'll look to the, he's got a new title. To Jay Posner, a manager of development services.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. No, just some additional context on sort of how we got here is the applicant had originally asked for a building permit and was issued a permit for a building structure that complied with the bylaw. Its height was at was 3 feet lower than it is today. And when the inspection, they started their construction, and then when the inspection came that they were able to gauge the height of the building, the inspector noted that this isn't compliant, and the work was stopped on the building, and an opportunity was given to the applicant to comply or to seek a committee approval through this process, and they've chosen this process.
Thank you. Is there anything else, Michael?
No follow-up, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions, and then I'll have a couple of comments when else has had the opportunity to speak. I went down and looked at the site today, and I've listened to the planner talk about the footings reported inappropriate height. I don't see that, but I guess I'm looking at, I saw the building. The footings, it's built on slab. I don't know how far down the footings go, but it's a step in off ground level pretty much into that building. So I'm having trouble with the air was made with the footings. I'm not a contractor, I'm not a builder, but it looked like it was very close to going in off a grade. So as I understand it, when they took out the permit several months ago, it was for 5 meters. The current zoning bylaw at that point in time was 5 meters. They built the building to 6.7 meters. And, you know, that 5 meters was only changed 6 weeks ago to 6 meters. And here we are now, recommendation from the planner to approve 6.7 when we just changed it. And I reluctantly supported going from 5 to 6 meters. I wasn't sure an accessory type structure should go as high as 6 meters. However, we did approve it. And now we're looking at approving 6.7. So I just and now we're looking, you know, back to the Committee of Adjustment for approval. So I'm really struggling with going to 6.7. I read the letter from the next door neighbor, and you know, they talked about an eyesore causing a huge square box with the roof line provides. You know, it is a big structure, but that's whether it's small or large. My point with approving this is minor in nature is, you know, we're basically going 5 to 6.7, although it has been changed to 6. But when the application was taken out, it was 5 meters, and they built it to 6.7. So I guess my question to Jay or Dana, you know, I read in the sketches here 7.3 meters, not 6.7, but 7.3. So where does the 7.3 meters come in? Can someone explain that to me?
Yes, so the height, we've got a unique definition for height. We allow for different roof structures, but still maintaining the required height. So in this case, because this is what was it called? A shed dormer structure. The roof is sloped on one side sort of, and we take the mean height between the highest point and the lowest point, and that's the height of the building. So what we're measuring is to that middle of that peaked structure.
I get you. I have a couple other comments, but maybe I'll just defer to other committee members if there's any other comments or questions, and then I'd like to come back one more time.
Thank you. Councillor Stack?
Yeah, thanks. I just had a quick question. So I think what I heard is one of the neighbors' concerns that this would become an accessory dwelling. And Jay, I don't know if you know offhand, but would the structure meet all the requirements in an accessory dwelling? It would be nice to know if we can assuage that concern one way or the other.
Like, I don't know if I can answer if all of the structure would meet all the requirements. I don't have the ARU requirements in my mind, but I also can defer to Jillian or Karina if they've got more information about sort of, if you're wondering about the potential use or restricting the use of that structure.
I don't have any information as to whether it has the capacity to be an accessory dwelling unit. I imagine through policies it could be adapted to one down the road. So there is potential to add a condition that would limit that use.
Well, and sorry, I'm not sure if that's that's not my intent with the question. I think the question is just related to the fact that one of the neighbor raised the issue of a concern being not only its appearance, but also the potential for its becoming an accessory dwelling in future. So I was just curious if you happen to know whether, my immediate thought was, is it set back far enough from the property line and from the original dwelling to become one? And I've seen the structure, so my guess is probably, but I was just curious if we knew offhand whether, just as a starting point, whether the setbacks, like the placement, met the requirements. And if not, at least you could provide that as some sort of a comfort to the neighbor, but it doesn't look like we're able to do so on this notice. So thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could just interrupt, we can confirm this. Some bylaw provisions, like the setbacks, would be compliant. They're the same as normal accessory structures, but there are other things we don't have information on at our fingertips, like the floor area of the structure needs to be assessed, because when you get too big, it's not an ARU. Anyways, that's just one example.
Okay, thank you.
It is possible for us to have a condition that very specifically states that this structure is not for human habitation. That has been part of other decisions made by the Committee of Adjustment over the years when accessory structures have been involved in applications, that we have put that condition very, very explicitly into the decision. Are there any other comments? Michael?
Yeah, I have trouble with this application on two grounds: whether or not it complies with the second test of a variance, which is, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? And also the fourth arm of the test, is the application minor in nature? Many of the variances that we do are in facilitation of a wider county or municipal purpose, such as dealing with our housing crisis, etc. So when we're increasing the length of a parking spaces and things like that, and infringement on that, this is in furtherance of what I may be so bold as to characterize as a temporary use within a permanent building. The temporary use being a climbing wall, and in doing so, it is creating a negative impact on the individual next door. Our zoning bylaws are here for a reason, and part of it is to keep the aesthetics of the particular neighborhood, but also the aesthetic of individuals and the property values of people around them. The increase when this, and again, I cannot obviously challenge the information that Mr. Posner and Ms. Smith have received from the applicant, because I have no basis to do that. But I do hear what Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt says, dealing with this height. It seems that this is an excessive departure of 0.7 from the current bylaw for a purpose which doesn't serve any wider community good. And in my respectful view, that and the effect on the neighboring property, to my mind, doesn't meet the tests in sub 2 and sub 4. So as a result, I don't think I'm able to support this. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I really struggled with this application. We just increased for accessory structures, just increased the height from 5 meters to 6 meters. And that in itself is a large structure in a rear yard or a side yard. And now we're pushing the envelope to 6.7 meters. This application was taken out for 5 meters. They built it to 6.7. And I'm really struggling to approve something that takes us to a 6.7 meter structure. Mr. Martin talked about 2 and 4. I think number 3 request is desirable for the appropriate orderly development. Appropriate. One of the comments from the planners, the rear of the property is bounded by woodlands, which it is. It is not expected that permitting the variance will have any impact on the character of the area. I'm not convinced that's accurate. I'm just not convinced that's accurate, or have any impact on the woodlands. And I know, who speaks for the woodland? I know it's not, an argument could be made, how's it impacting that woodland and behind? I guess just the look at that 6.7 meter structure and butted right up against that woodland. So I don't see number 4 of the variance as minor in nature. I don't think it's minor, this one. I've approved many minor variances on this committee and felt good about doing it. I'm not sure this is minor in nature, and I read the concern from the resident next door, and I think it's legitimate. I think they have a legitimate concern with this one, and so I'm not going to support it. I can't support this application, and I've sat around this table for 5 years. I've supported majority, but I really struggle with this one. So.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to speak?
Madam Chair, if no other committee members, I would just like to look back to.
Go ahead, Chad.
Thank you. Being through you, I have a couple of comments, and I thank both of the Michael colleagues that are on this committee for raising the specific points in relation to our responsibilities here on committee in considering minor variances. And I know that we only consider through those 4 points. I won't be supporting this, but I think there's a piece here that we should, I'm not sure how we consider it or if we can. I am speaking from the range of points 2 through 4 that have been already mentioned. But at the beginning of this meeting, we do a land acknowledgement that talks about the commitment through truth and reconciliation. And I really think that every effort has to be exhausted to hear from the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation on such matters as this. So 90% is an excellent percentage, as the planner informed us. But I do think that it's critically important, not just on these ones that are exceptional and perhaps maybe voted down, but on all of them. So I don't know how we consider it, and it's not the determination in my decision tonight where I won't support this, but I do think there needs to be an avenue of consideration if the council and subcommittees are committed to truth and reconciliation, and how we include that in our thinking and in our decision making. That's just a comment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chad. Sorry, I was watching your hand in your face. I didn't see the little hand in the corner. Would anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Stack?
Thank you. Just a clarification. And I think I missed the dialogue, but this was the SON not original when the original application for the construction, they were consulted at that point, correct? Or maybe I should ask that better. Were they consulted during the initial application for the construction?
No, they wouldn't. Certainly, if it's compliant with the zoning bylaw, we can just issue a permit under a normal process.
Oh, okay. Okay, maybe I can just ask because I know we've reviewed, and I think it's just again my ignorance, but I know we've reviewed that like applications of a similar nature, and then I think one of them was was an auxiliary structure that existed, and then there was quite a bit of SON review that had to go through. So just for my clarification, when it's just a normal building permit, the SON does not have to be consulted. Is that?
Yeah, that's
I'm just-
our application of the building code.
Okay.
I'd have to defer for the refined detail. Certainly, there are exceptions where we know with absolute certainty there are archaeological sites. We do have a different developing a new consultation
Okay.
with Saugeen Ojibwe.
Okay, understood. And maybe just my comment, you know, I don't, I mean, personally, I don't love the idea of a 6.7 meter structure. I think I'm just, you know, I don't know that this particular structure is large. There's a house down the road that's, you know, just as large and probably similarly as high, as tall. So I'm, you know, it's not ideal, but I don't know that I oppose it. You know, given our tendency to approve sort of minor variances, I'm not, you know, again, not a huge advocate for the size, but I'm not sure we want to, the justification is there to not approve. I hear everyone's comments and I totally understand them, and I'm not opposed to those comments. I think just on the basis of sort of the merits of this particular request, I'm not interested in putting limitations on what they can do by approving it. So I'm not opposed to the idea. Again, not a huge fan of it, but given the circumstances we're in and the location and the fact that the land's been, you know, the structure is already there. I'm not sure that the woodlands are going to be further affected by the extra 0.7 meters, but I hear the feedback. But just from my perspective, I certainly won't oppose this particular variance, but I appreciate and sort of 100% respect and understand the comments from the other members.
Thank you. Anyone else? From my own perspective, I agree about the woodland. It wasn't that long ago that we had a massive significant woodland study across our community, and that's the woodland between the former town of Port Elgin and Southampton is significant. And so anything that is abutting that, we should be concerned about the impact there. I also had concerns, which I went looking for setbacks related to driveways because, you know, there is an extension of the existing driveway back to this property that, from what I can see in the drawing and just a visual, it's very, very close to the property line. And there are requirements for setbacks for driveways of at least a meter coming back from a property line. So I have concerns about just adherence to our zoning bylaw in a number of different areas beyond the height restriction. This application didn't ask for a driveway situation to be corrected to enable a driveway that would be closer than the required setback. So I am of the opinion that this is not meeting the four tests, but the planner has made a recommendation. So I will first ask, is there any further questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, the planner has put a report before us. I would ask if someone would like to make a motion. Councillor Stack. Councillor Stack, oh, were you moving the motion?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay,
yes.
sorry.
Sorry.
Do I have a seconder for the planner's recommendation to grant the minor variance? Okay, seeing none, I'm open to other recommendations or other motions. We could have a motion to defer, or we could have a motion to refuse. Chad?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I would like to table a motion to refuse the planner's recommendation. I'd also like to thank the planners for all the hard work they do. We know a lot goes into this, but on this occasion, I would like to present that motion.
Just was getting there. We need to have reasons for the refusal. So there are 5 possibilities for a refusal. I'll just read them and then perhaps Chad, you can pick and choose whichever ones you feel are appropriate. So the variance does not maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan. Or number 2, the variance does not maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Number 3, the variance requested is not desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the lands and buildings. Number 4, the variance is not minor in nature. And number 5, the variance does not conform to the provincial policy statement. So Chad, if you would like to include
Yes,
appropriate numbers.
thank you. And I'm hoping you can reread them. I have 2 computers connected, but one is disconnected several times. I would like to propose that the motion be brought under number 2, 3, and 4. The number 2 was zoning. I forget the exact wording. Number 3, the desirable. Number 4, if I can read my own writing, it is not minor, particularly given that at its peak, it's 7.3 meters.
Okay, the list that I read, the variance is not minor in nature was number 4 on the list.
Yeah, so 2, 3, and 4 that you
Okay,
read
so
as
so
read by.
the 2 that you're leaving are off are the variance does not maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan. And number 5, which is the variance does not conform to the provincial policy statement.
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, so do I have a seconder for that motion? Vice Deputy Myatt, seconded. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, so what we have on the floor right now is the application for minor variance from comprehensive zoning bylaw 75.2006 is hereby refused for the following reasons. The variance does not maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The variance requested is not desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the lands and buildings. And finally, the variance is not minor in nature. All those in favor? All opposed? That motion carries, so the variance is refused. Okay, we have one more agenda item. It's to confirm the meeting date for our June meeting, which we've already agreed to a June 26th virtual meeting related to the sign bylaw. I believe, do we need to plan a meeting for June related to applications?
At this time, we don't need a meeting for June, Madam Chair.
Well, the June meeting is related to the sign bylaw. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I was got it gapped out there, but the June 26th is sign training and 2 sign variances. And then I was a month ahead, I guess, is that I'm not sure what the July meeting for minor variances is.
Okay, well, we'll wait for advance notice. We are planning the June 26th meeting to happen virtually. However, beyond that meeting, we look very much forward to welcoming all of you back into the chambers to come and be here in person for a committee of adjustment meeting if you're able to. The Zoom option will still be there, but we would welcome you to be here. They are working out the kinks in terms of the audio visual system, but hopefully you will be able to come in person or still Zoom in if you'd like. Chad?
Madam Chair, just a matter that peaked for me today, and I don't know where it should go, but I wanted to bring it up before the end of the meeting. I certainly like that when the planners present, when they share screen of their report, and I'm not sure if that was a conscious decision or a technology issue tonight, but I would certainly like to see that remain part of the meeting structure if possible.
Thank you.
I agree with Chad. Sorry, just to butt in. Yeah, completely right. It's a lot easier.
I think it's been noted by 3 town staffers here that,
Well-
as I said, we're working out how this works. We have it's an incredible echo in here too. So that's why I asked if you were hearing okay, because it was a little garbled here at times. Jay, did you want to say something?
No, just that we are working to improve our reports and presentations. As always, the intent, it was an intention to not have a share screen. And that if we could replicate the image-rich presentation in the report, the idea is that it makes it easier for the facilitation of the new system we've got when we don't share screen. So we'll reconsider and talk about it as we keep going meeting to meeting.
Thank you. Is there anything further? Then I'd ask for a move to adjourn. Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt, seconded by Chad Zimmerman. All in favor? The meeting is adjourned at 5:50. Thank you very much.